So a few days ago was the release of the Lies of P DLC Overture, which me, because I'm an elite gamer, sped ran within, like, I think I beat it on the 8th of June. Was it the 8th of June? No, it's 7th of June I beat it, and it came out the 6th of June. And then the 8th of June I released, like, my edited full playthrough of it. So I'm just a speedrunner, speedrunner's wet dream. That's me, basically. And because I liked the DLC, I like a lot of the bosses in the DLC, and I think it's really cool, and I waited for the DLC to come out for this specific video, I am going to rank every single boss, and I mean every single boss, not just the main bosses, the ones that you can do in the boss refight mode, the new refight mode, which is really cool addition. I went on a New Game Plus save, and I'm going to rank every single boss, including the most abysmal of abysmal bosses, from worst to best. I believe there's 33 of them. So anything with a boss health bar. The only two I'm not including is the boss that makes it second worst on this list, so it's inconsequential really. There's two more versions of that same boss with the health bar and everything later on in a later chapter, but because they're the exact same boss pretty much besides one move, I'm not counting those. And if you know Lies of P, you probably know what I'm talking about, but besides those two, every single one of these is just everything with a health bar, with a bigger boss health bar rather, and a name. So yeah, anyway, let's get into the ranking. Every single, I think there's 33 bosses in Lies of P from worst to best. Now coming dead last, and this boss fight, I mean, is Black Cat. Now, Black Cat, you meet in Chapter 3 of the game, then you meet in Chapter 5 of the game, and there's a bit of a build-up. I mean, he's not that interesting of a character for me personally, but you meet him a few times in the game, and then when you eventually fight him, I believe he's blind or something, but when you eventually fight him, it's in this big arena, and you're thinking, oh wow, he must have some cool movesets if he's like, maybe he's going to fly around the place and stuff, because it's this huge arena, considering his size and your size, and it's just a normal human fight, which is boring as hell. His run back is also abysmal, which is probably why he's dead last on this list. So he's an uninteresting character in an arena which is a cock tease. His moveset is abysmal. He's super weak. And not just that, his run back is absolutely abhorrently terrible. It's one of only two in this game, which I generally think is trash. And the other one's going to be a lot higher in this list, to be fair, because overall they're a far better boss. But yeah, Black Cat is just absolute poo-poo, and it's coming in last on the list. Now, coming in at number 32, and this is the boss that I think most people would probably assume would be last, and it's one I was talking about earlier that has two other versions of it, is the Puppet of the Future. Puppet of the Future is basically just a free quartz, and a quartz is a currency within the game. Like, I don't know really what else to say. Like, this boss, I mean, you're looking at the gameplay, it's the most easy thing ever. I mean, it hits really hard if you do get hit by it, which, if I do now, I find it embarrassing. That being said, I would rather fight this guy again than I would Black Cat, so that's why he's higher, but he is also absolutely abhorrently bad. And I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler alert. The first, 10 enemies on this list are going to all be, these human enemies. I think they're called Stalkers within the game. Stalkers or Bastards, it's one of the two. But it's just going to be, these guys, and then after these 10, we're going to get into the better ones. But just that's a quick spoiler alert, because the rest of this list is just going to be... the next 10 are just going to be these terrible, are all going to be bad. So, quick warning. And with that being said, the next on our list is the Atoned. The Atoned is one that is technically optional. This one and one that's 2 places higher, you have to fight one of them to be able to avoid the other. So if you find the first one, you can avoid this guy, and if you don't find the first guy, you've got to fight this guy. So it's basically a 50-50 whether you have to fight this guy or not. Although you can still choose to fight them, even if you fight the other guy, because you get a gesture from the other guy, and you don't have to do the gesture. Anyway, that's besides the point. This boss fight is absolutely terrible. The moveset, I swear they have literally 2 moves. And that's it. And that's not even me being metaphorical. I swear they have 2 moves, maybe 3 if I'm being generous. They've not got an arena. They just fight them in the middle of nowhere. The moveset's terrible. I don't know the lore of this person because I have no interest in them. They're not fun to fight. Even though they're easy, they're not fun to block or to backstab or anything. Like there are some fights that are on the easier side of things, or some might say are easy, unless you're Oniball or whatever his name is, and you're the best player in Lies of P ever. But for most people, some of these fights will be quite difficult. But even the more easier ones on this list, what I'm trying to say is easy doesn't always mean bad, hard doesn't always mean good, right? So it's not like because this guy's easy, it's just a shit fight. It's just a shit next, right? It's just a shit fight. Now coming up 30th on the list, and I think this is one that, I mean, it's not going to be the most controversial. There's one far later on which I think will be the most controversial, and I'll mention it when I talk about it, because I think people are going to be like, how is this person this low? But this is a fight that I think people would say should be higher than a lot of these humanoid enemies, and this is the Black Rabbit Brotherhood's second fight. You fight them later on in the game, which I will talk about later on, but when you fight them here, it's just boring. I mean, you get a quartz after beating them, which is cool, I suppose, but you do the first time anyway, so it's whatever, in a different way, but you still get it. But you fight 3 enemies at the same time, but only one really aggroes on you. They all have different abilities, like one is electric, one is acid, and one is fire. Like they all have like the grindstones that you have, and that's kind of unique and cool, I suppose. But their arena's not particularly interesting. I mean, it's just a cave. Their second phase, if you want to call it a second phase, where they revive their dead brother from the dead who you kill earlier on in the game, and that's what that other fight is he's got a few new moves. I mean, one's like this like wave kind of that goes across the floor. He is technically harder because of that, but it's pretty much the same thing. It's just a far worse version of the first fight, and it's in by far the worst chapter. The Relic of Trismegistus is the worst chapter in the game by far, and that's not even a debate, that's just factual. If you don't think it is, you're just factually wrong. Like, it's very obvious. It is literally the quickest chapter in the game. You can speedrun through this chapter faster than you can the very first chapter of the game. This chapter is ass. So it's in the worst chapter of the game. It's the same fight we've already fought, just with slight differences. I mean, you actually put them down for good this time. All three of them are active at the same time, and it's just annoying. Like, only one fully aggroes on you, sure, but then the other two can still attack you if you get too close, or there's one of them's got like a string where they can pull you in, and it's just a puppet string, so it's just a bit annoying. But yeah, but the main reason this is so low is just because it's a fight from earlier on, but terrible. So it's in the worst chapter, and it's the same guys from earlier on. The arena's pretty shit. It's just bad. It's just a bad fight. Like, it's just bad. Now, if the earlier fight wasn't there, it'd be a slightly bit better, I think, because at least then it'd be a bit more unique, like a bit more like, wow. But it's just an absolutely far worse version of a fight earlier on in the game, so it's just, yeah. I literally have no interest in this fight, and I will never be fighting these guys on the boss refight mode, ever. Anyway, this fight comes in at number 30. Now, coming into number 29 on the list, we're out the 30s, but we're still in absolute ass territory, is the Survivor, who is the boss you've got to beat if you want to skip the Atoned, and if you don't find this guy, you can't get the gesture to skip the Atoned, unless you're on a New Game Plus and you've already got the gesture, because gestures carry over. But yeah, he's ass. There's literally nothing really to say about this guy. He's in a very small room. He's probably in the tightest boss fight arena in the entire game, if you're counting this guy as a boss, which I am. But he's in the smallest arena. There's a little table to take him out. Like, he's just, I mean, like a lot of the human enemies, they can be backstab merchants, I suppose, although he's not the easiest to backstab, but he's nowhere near the hardest. He's definitely one of the easiest now that I think about it, actually. But he's just, I mean, look at the fight. He's just nothing. He's just like, whatever. Like, I'd rather fight him than the four I've previously mentioned. But he's just like poo. And surprise, surprise, another humanoid enemy, or another stalker, bastard enemy, whatever you want to call them, is the Robber Weasel. The Robber Weasel, I forget, is even a boss in this game half the time. Actually, when I was doing this list, I fought every boss on New Game Plus and then put them in the list where I would rank them, right, after beating them. And then I remember, before going on to the DLC, like completing the main game, besides the final boss, I looked at my list, and I looked at my recordings, like my clips of the enemies, and I had like one extra clip than I did bosses in the ranking, if that made sense. And I was like, so what boss have I not typed in? And it was Robber Weasel. I fought Robber Weasel and forgot to rank them on the list because they're that terrible. Like, do you know what I mean? So they're just so forgettable. The reason I put them above the rest is because they're slightly more harder than the other ones. Maybe besides Black Rabbit Brotherhood, but the other like stalker bastard enemies or whatever, it's harder. Harder isn't always better, but in this case, I think it is a bit of an improvement. But also, like, I think the moveset's slightly better, but it's still, it's just, I mean, I don't really know what to say at this point, because this one and then like the next 3 or 4 above it are all pretty much the same. I just had to pick one over the other, right? And yeah, so ass boss, terrible boss. Don't even know who this person actually is. Like, the voice acting in this boss, by the way, I need to mention, is absolutely atrocious. I don't know who the voice actor is. I'm sure they're great at other things. I have no idea. I don't know why I'm saying I'm sure, because I don't know who they are. But my god, the voice acting is fucking ass. It's so bad. Genuinely, I could voice act with my normal voice, and it would be better than this voice acting. It's so abysmal. Anyway, it's got to be the worst voice acting in the game by far. Anyway, yeah. Robber Weasel comes here. And then next on the list, I mean, I'm just going to speed run through these, I think, because like these next 3 are just these same humanoid kind of enemies. We've got Owl Doctor. You find him in a shack in Chapter 7. Nothing much to say about him. He's just whatever. I mean, there's a bit more lore to him than Robber Weasel, which is why I put him higher, and his moveset's a little less annoying, but whatever. Then we've got Red Fox, who is like the sister of Black Cat. I don't think they're biological, but I mean, I don't really care. They're both shit. But Red Fox is a bit better. The runback's nowhere near as bad as her brother is, and she's just a harder fight. She's more interesting fight. And out of the 2 characters, I think she's probably more interesting, although they're both not interesting at all. But yeah. And then the final one of these enemies, so we can just get past them, because I'm speedrunning them, is Mad Donkey. Mad Donkey's the first of these guys you fight. he's not optional, you've got to fight him. But the reason I put him above the rest is because, one, he's the first, so especially on a new game, he's going to be new to you, so you're going to be like, wow, so it's not like you've fought a million of these guys before. He's going to be new. Also, he's in an important part of the game. You find him at the end of a good, well, not at the end, but towards the end of a good chapter 2, which is a chapter I like. He's important to the lore in terms of, relatively important, not extremely important, but, he's trying to get, it's where you find Geppetto after you kill him. He was trying to attack Geppetto, and you saved Geppetto, basically, and stuff. I also think, though, in New Game Plus, because he's the first of these enemies, his health bar's not as high, I suppose, so you can kind of steamroll past him. I mean, you can steamroll past all of these guys, to be quite frank, but besides maybe, Red Fox, maybe. Oh my god, I just realised, this is how forgettable these guys are. I just completely forgot. I'm looking at my list right now of ranking all the enemies. I completely forgot about White Lady. There's one more in between Red Fox and Mad Donkey called White Lady, who I think is worse than Mad Donkey, but better than Red Fox. That's where I put them on the list. Completely forgot. That is how... Okay, there's the proof. I literally just looked at my list. I thought I was forgetting something. White Lady, completely forgot. Her boss fight, I like her arena, the little stage. I think she's, lore-wise, kind of interesting, with her sister being this important character and stuff. I don't know, I think she's okay. Her moveset is ass, and if you've played the game before, you'll know that you just have to dodge to her right, and then she's a backstab merchant. That's pretty much how you beat her easily. But even if you don't cheese her, she's still easy. It's not like it's extremely difficult. She's not the final boss of the game, right? That being said, completely forgot she existed. This person I put below Mad Donkey, but I just spoke of Mad Donkey first because I completely forgot White Lady even existed. So that's just proving how bad these fights are. But yeah, that's all of these fights over and done with. Now we're getting on to proper bosses. But yeah, so just to recap, because it might have been a bit confusing. Black Cat, Puppet of the Future, The Atoned, Black Railway Brotherhood, Survivor, Robber Weasel, Owl Doctor, Red Fox, White Lady, and Mad Donkey. In that order from worst to best. That's where we're at so far, okay? So now the stinkers are out the way, we are now onto the bosses from here on out I would say are average. I don't think there's a single boss from here on out that I would say is abysmal, and obviously, no duh, the further up we get up the list, the better they'll get, in my opinion. And starting off this, I believe it's 23rd, although I could be miscounting, is Door Guardian. Door Guardian actually got an update in the gimmick boss, where you have to hit his right leg to stagger him, and then do a visceral or a fatal attack, rather, to then deplete a huge chunk of his health, or maybe, depending on how much you've hit him before, insta-kill him, right? And that's his whole gimmick. You don't do any damage, really, to his skin, not his leg, basically, anywhere else. That being said, they did update the boss to, one, have a far more obvious weak spot, being his right leg. It never used to, if you're looking at the gameplay, it never used to have these, bulbs or this pulsing stuff on his leg. It used to just look like a regular leg, I suppose. I don't know, imagine it just doesn't have it, right? And for new players, I actually think this is a positive change, because it was not obvious at all that it was a gimmick straight away. You really had to trial and error it a lot, and I could definitely see someone dying 10, 15 times to this guy, simply due to the fact that they don't know the gimmick. But also, they updated it so that his skin, well, I say skin is like skin, but you know what I mean, the rest of his body actually takes more damage than it used to. So theoretically, you don't even have to hit his weak spot. I mean, you still should, because it makes a boss fight very easy, but he's been nerfed in the sense that his whole body actually takes a lot more damage now. And I don't know whether I like that change. The previous change I do like, this change I'm not 100% sure. For some reason my laptop's just got very loud while recording this. I'm unsure if my mic's picking it up, but it's absolutely fine, we move. But yeah, also the run back for Door Guardian is pretty poor. It's second to only Black Cat, I feel like. It might be on the same level, but I feel like Black Cat's is more... I mean, I've never died to Black Cat because it's Black Cat, but I know where the most recent Stargazer is to him, so I know it's a bit of a trek. When Door Guardian hits you as well, he also inflicts you with shock, which basically just makes your stamina regen a lot slower, and it is very effective at doing that. That being said, if you fight him, I'd say 4 or 5 times, you'll eventually just almost be able to do it hitless, at least on new game. I probably did get hit by him. He has got a few moves which I don't, I probably get hit by. But yeah, overall, Door Guardian is a fine introduction to Chapter 11, which has 2 very, very good bosses that are far higher up in this list. It has 6 bosses, but 2 of which being Black Cat and Red Fox, and then the other one is actually 2 places up. But yeah, Door Guardian overall, I need to stop yapping, is absolutely fine. Now coming up next, we have Corrupted Parade Master, who is the corrupted version, of the Parade Master, who is the tutorial boss of the game. And the Corrupted Parade Master, the reason I put him lower than his tutorial version, which will be a few spots higher, is down to a few reasons. 1, I think he doesn't look as interesting. 2, 2, it's later on in the game, and he's just not as interesting to a newcomer, I feel like, so I'm taking the new factor into account. 3, I think his moveset's not as interesting. And 4, I mean, there's not a number 4, I just don't like him as much, I suppose. It's my opinion, is number 4, that's what it is. Now, I do think it's cool that his weakness is fire when the originals is electric, because he's, instead of being like a full-on puppet, now he's like a carcass type enemy. That's what they call them, where he's affected more by fire. So I do like that. He also summons ads, but the ads are pretty much pointless because they die so quickly and they're meaningless. Basically, when he's summoning an ad, when he's in that animation, it's just a free damage sponge, and usually he won't summon any more than 2 of them, and they're extremely easy to deal with. In fact, sometimes when you're hitting him while he's summoning it, you might just kill it out by accident, right? So yeah, he's not an annoying boss. I wouldn't say he's a terrible boss, and it's a really cool idea, but I do think there's a boss really high up on this list for me that does the previous boss but corrupted version a lot better, and if you've played Lies of P, you probably know what I'm on about there. It's a second phase of a certain boss. But anyway, Corrupted Parade Master, 22nd, I think it's absolutely fine. Now, next on the list, we actually have Simon Manus, the final boss that is mandatory that you're not allowed to skip to beat the game in Chapter 11. There is one boss afterwards, which is the real final boss, but technically you can skip it. You don't have to fight them, although it is very easy to not miss it. But anyway, going back to Simon Manus. Simon Manus is a very disappointing last boss. He's the main antagonist of the game, you would say. I mean, it's either him or Geppetto, but Simon Manus is one of the main antagonists of the game, and some people might say the main antagonist, and he's so disappointing for that. So let's go into his first phase first. His first phase used to be super tanky, but now I think it's fine health-wise. His moves are fine. They're nothing great. There's definitely people with far better moves, but his moves are fine. I think his design is pretty poor. My laptop just got really loud again. I don't know why that's happening. I need to take a break. I'm saying all this and you might not even be able to hear it, but anyway. Simon Manus, I don't like his design. His boss fight arena is actually pretty cool. I actually like it more in its first phase than the second phase, but I feel like that'll be an unpopular opinion. And overall, I just think Simon Manus, I just think he's at least his first phase is very disappointing. Like, he's a fine boss. He's absolutely fine. I mean, I know he's, 21st on this list, which might sound, is it 21st or 20th? But whatever it is, it might sound very, very low, especially for a final boss. But I actually don't find him that bad. I mean, that's going to the quality of the higher bosses, I suppose. But he's just disappointing, right? For the final boss of the game, that luckily the boss after him, which obviously I've not mentioned yet, is so good that it kind of like, it is the final boss, really. But his second phase is where it gets a bit more annoying. I mean, he's a lot more tanky, which is fair enough. His design is a bit better in terms of his personal design. I like his boss fight arena a little less, but it's not a big deal. And he has a few attacks, which I actually don't mind. Like, I actually like the attacks on his second phase more, like the physical attacks, that is. But he has a new bunch of AoE attacks that he doesn't have in the first phase, and my god, some of them are annoying. Most of them don't even look that nice, and even the ones that do look nice are usually still quite annoying. He has one exception that I can think of off the top of my head, although there's some that are not as bad as I'm making him out to be. But the one exception is he has this, in his like second phase of his second phase, he summons this like Hand of God, I suppose, the Master Hand from Smash Bros, to come down and smash half of the arena. And if it hits you, you instantly die. But it's very easily avoidable, like it's very obvious. It takes quite a while to come down as well. And I think it looks really, really cool and it's super hype. And I'm fine with that. But most of his AoE attacks are just quite annoying. And when you stagger him, he also has a little like attack just before he goes down, which quite a few enemies happen. This happens to the elders of the Black Rabbit Brotherhood in the Black Rabbit Brotherhood fight. And yeah, I'm not a big fan of those. It's not a big deal, and they didn't have any of them in the DLC as far as I'm aware, so they probably knew that people complained about them. But yeah, overall, I think Simon Manus is just a very disappointing final boss. He's fine. I think the reason it might be a shock to some people that he's this low is simply due to the fact that he is the kind of final boss. But yeah, Simon Manus on this position, I suppose. Next up, we have the Walker of Illusions, which is the best boss in Chapter 9. It's squeezed right in between the Robber Weasel, who, it's hard competition there, am I right? And Corrupted Parade Master. Walker of Illusions, being the best in Chapter 9, shows you how poorly the bosses of Chapter 9, I think, are. Being, 20th place out of 33, and most of them are those human stalker enemies. But Walker of Illusions, I think it's a female, but whatever, is absolutely fine. The whole gimmick of the Walker of Illusions, and its name is a big hint on this, is it can summon a clone, although in the gameplay I out-DPS the clone phase. The clone has very little health anyway and barely poses a challenge, even on New Game Plus. But Walker of Illusions, I think the difficulty is fine. I mean, I know I said before I mentioned Door Guardian, or talked about Door Guardian, that all the bosses from here on out are like average or better. But this is like the true average boss for me. Like there's nothing about it that stands out as like great. Its arena's meh. Its design's meh. Its gimmicks meh. Well, it's not a gimmick, but it's like second phase transition kind of. It's not even really a full second phase. Is meh. Its attacks are meh. Like everything's just meh. It's fine. It's got less I hate about it than the previous entries, but it's got less I like about it than the previous entries. It's just like, but I would prefer to fight it over Simon Manus, so that's why it's above him. And breaking into the top 20 at number 19, I believe, is the Parade Master. Now, we just talked about the Corrupted Parade Master a few minutes ago. Well, it would have been a few minutes ago, I think. Anyway, the Parade Master is a really good tutorial boss. He's actually, out of all the Souls games I've played, probably my favourite, unless you count Father Gascoigne in Bloodborne as a tutorial boss, but usually I think more Cleric Beast. But I really do like the Parade Master. I think his attacks are far more interesting than his Corrupted counterpart. For a tutorial boss, I think he's really solid. His build-up, if you're a new player, like you've never played the game before, is actually kind of solid. And I think his design's actually pretty cool. The reason he's not super high up on the list, given all that, even though I'm giving him all that praise, is simply due to the fact that if you fight him a second time, like the first time you fight him ever is really cool, and as a tutorial boss, but if you ever fight him after that, he's just instantly far worse. And you might say, well, that's obvious. No, the top spot on this list, and even the top like 3 or 4 spots, I would fight those bosses over and over again and probably enjoy them more once I learn their moveset more. I know the top spot, I fight them constantly on the boss refight mode now. That might be a spoiler as to what the boss will be, but it's definitely not. It could be anyone. But that being said, Parade Master, yeah, I mean, just fine tutorial boss, but nothing more really. And fighting him on New Game Plus or just in any other playthrough, if you play another, make a new save, he's just quite boring. Now, coming in at number 18, we actually have our first DLC boss, which shows you how good the DLC... I think is there 6 or 7 DLC bosses? And this is the first one on the list, so it shows you how good the DLC bosses are, in my eyes, I suppose. And I believe it's number 18. This is Pre-Metamorphic Green Hunter. Now, this is, I believe, unless someone can correct me if I'm wrong, the child version, or the younger version, of a creature that we actually fight later on in the game, and is quite high up in the list for me. And I actually find this to be okay. I think it's the only boss where, when you defeat it, you don't actually end up killing it. It just runs away, and then because the DLC takes place in the... It's a prequel. Well, kinda. You go back in time, so you're still you from the main game anyway. But I suppose canon-wise, you fought this boss, whatever, and he gives you a quartz, which is a consumable within the game, which is a consumable. It's a material in the game, which is very useful. So it is worth to fight him, and it's the only boss in my first playthrough of the DLC I completely didn't find. I think the rest are all mandatory, to be fair, so this is the only optional one. I could be wrong there, but I did fight every single other one anyway. So the gameplay you're actually seeing was my first time ever beating this boss. I mean, I think I died to them 3 times beforehand, because they actually have this grab attack. They have 2 grab attacks. Both of them are like full-on cutscenes, and quite a few bosses later on in the list actually have this as well, and which is really, really cool looking. And once you know about them, they're quite easy to dodge, but if you don't know about them for the first time, it's a bit of a shock, because the older version of it doesn't have grab attacks like it, and it's quite cinematic and quite cool. I mean, its boss fight arena is nothing, it's just a cave, but I think it's absolutely fine for the location it's in and everything. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't mind the design as a young version of the boss later on, which when I get to that boss you'll see it. I think it's fine. I think its attacks are a lot faster than its older version, and that makes sense because it's smaller. But yeah, overall, I don't mind this boss. It's nothing special, don't get me wrong, and it is my least favourite in the DLC, but it's still not bad at all. Now, just after that, we have King's Flame Fuoko, who is the 3rd main boss in Lives of P. Well, the main boss of Chapter 3. And Chapter 3's first boss, if you fight all of them, the other 2 being optional, is Parade Master and the Survivor, who literally, I swear, were in the top 5 worst in this entire game. I can't remember where I put Survivor. I know Parade Master was 2nd least favourite. So this guy, being the end of Chapter 3, is actually kind of a relief, because although he doesn't make it into the top 10 nowhere near, I don't even think he's top 15, he's a far cry from those guys. And far cry is maybe the wrong word, because that makes me sound like he's saying he's worse. But, I don't know, his design is ass, his boss fight arena is absolutely fine. Before you go into his boss fight arena, there's an alarm playing, and it's just the iPhone stock sound effect for an alarm, so it's kind of funny. And his boss fight music is very, very cool. I do want to mention that about music. I think it's probably my 2nd favourite boss fight music, other than the King of Puppets, which is another boss we'll talk about later on. His first phase, and especially his 2nd phase, I like that music a lot more. Spoiler alert, he's higher up on the list. But this is one of my favourite soundtracks in the game. His moveset is really nice to choreograph and stuff, so overall he's just pretty decent. Like, he's got a lot of negatives and a lot of positives. His design's poo, his lore's poo, his arena's not particularly great, but his moveset's actually kind of fun to fight against, or at least decent, especially for an early game boss, and I like his soundtrack quite a lot. So yeah, I think this is a fair position for King's Flame Fuoco, and especially after 2 stinking bosses in his chapter. Now we have the second DLC boss on the list, and that is the Tyrannical Predator, which is this huge crocodile that you fight at the end, well, pretty much at the end of Krat Zoo. There's technically another boss that's higher up on this list that is the final boss of this area of Chapter 1, but this is like the final boss of a certain area of Chapter 1. And, I mean, if you know Golden Hippo from Elden Ring, I've never fought Golden Hippo from Elden Ring because I've never got that far in Elden Ring. I've never played Shadow of the Erdtree, but I've seen gameplay of it. They look similar, so I'm just going to say that because I know a lot of people are going to talk about this guy being similar to that guy. And I think that this guy's absolutely fine. I think his attacks are far different from anything we see in the game, but not in a negative way. The only attack I'm not the biggest fan of with this guy is he's got this tail attack where when you get behind him, he'll swing his tail, but the tail for that happening, unless you play this guy constantly and he's not in the boss rush mode or the boss replay mode, so you can't replay him like that. You've just got to get to him in the game, and he's accessible in the DLC, and the DLC is only accessible from Chapter 9, so it's a bit like, oof. But unless you fight him a lot, I feel like the timing on that is just too poor. The tail attack, where he like spins around almost like the dragons in Elden Ring or a boss higher up on this list when you're behind them. But yeah, I don't like the tail on that. I think it's a bit crap. In fact, I think it's absolutely doggy poo. That being said, every other attack I think is easily readable. It's very obvious. It's very different. They're not just... And he doesn't seem as easy to like perfect guard because of his size, because you don't know when the attack's going to hit you, but I don't mind it. He's much more of a boss I think you'd be beneficial dodging. I mean, you can dodge or perfect block a lot of these bosses, but there's some bosses that are definitely made for parry and some that are definitely made for dodging. This guy's definitely, in my mind, made for dodging. He's got a grab attack, which always seems to get me. I can never dodge it, although if I fought him a few more times. I've only fought him twice. Once to get this gameplay in before my first time playing the DLC. Well, I've only beat him twice. I've obviously fought him more. I've died to him a few times. But yeah, overall I think Tyrannical Predator's a decent addition. I like his design as well, I didn't even mention that. His boss fight arena's actually fine as well. Coming out of Krat Zoo, so he's like an animal, and Krat Zoo's full of animals like kangaroos and elephants that have like been corrupted, I suppose. So this guy being the final boss of that area is actually pretty solid. I don't mind it at all, and that's why he comes this place on the list. Now we're in the top 15, and who better to start it off with than the Black Rabbit Brotherhood, or the eldest of the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. So basically how this fight works anyway is that instead of fighting all 3 at once and then the brother coming in later on, this one you start with the brother, and he's got the only health bar that you need to worry about in terms of he is the only, like once his health bar's gone down and the fight ends, you have to kill him. But throughout the fight, so once his health's at like 75%, one of the other members will come in, and then at 50% one of the other ones, and then at 25% one of the other ones. And the trick to this fight really, I mean in the gameplay I just bum rush him so you won't see the trick, because I have quite a strong weapon and I'm on New Game +1, so it's not like I'm, you know, I could afford to do this. But usually the trick is, especially if you're not particularly amazing at Lives of P, would be to damage him until he gets to about 25% of his health missing, and then, or gone, and then the youngest of the Black Rabbit Brotherhood will spawn in, and then you get her to really low health, like when you defeat them, instead of dying because they come back later. They just jump out the arena and they're like, okay, you finish them off, because they get scared because you're absolutely a beast and an OG, I suppose. And then you get them to 50, do the same thing. So you basically fight him until one spawns in, then focus on the one that spawned in. Every now and again he'll run and like jump at you as an attack, but it's very easily dodgeable, and most of the time you can see him. It's very rare you'll be fighting the person with the guy behind you. But yeah, overall I think this fight's a lot better. I love the rain, so it's raining in this arena. The arena's also a lot more interesting than just the cave or the other fight. Like, I just find this a lot more, and it's also in between Chapter 4, which has a decent boss, which I've not mentioned yet. It's not amazing, but it's decent, and Chapter 6, which has 2 of the best bosses, well, 2 decent bosses at the very least, and White Lady, so we'll forget about that. But yeah, I just think it comes at a better part in the game. I like the boss fight arena more, the fight's more interesting. It's just a better version of that previous fight by far as well. They're one was my 4th least favourite and one's my 15th favourite out of 33. So yeah, Black Rabbit Brotherhood, or the eldest of the Black Rabbit Brotherhood, comes in at 15th. Now coming in at number 14, and this is one that I'm actually hyped to talk about, because I feel like, I don't know how many people will watch this video, whether it'll be 1 person or 5 people. It's definitely not going to be 80,000, is it? But however many people see this, there will be 1 person, I'm sure, that will crucify me for this. And at number 14, we have a DLC boss, and it's the final DLC boss of the game, Arlecchino. I know for a fact people are going to love this boss, and I think design-wise, especially second phase, he looks really cool, giving me Ganon vibes with that hair. He looks super cool. I think the arena is actually pretty cool. It's like a pool of blood, and if you're playing it in the story mode and not in the boss fight, which actually this is the only boss in the gameplay that I fought in the boss rush mode or whatever, because I was really bad at him, so I wanted to get practice in of him, and he was the last boss I had to fight, so I could skip a whole section to get gameplay, really. So, but usually there'll be like Romeo strung up in the background. I think it's him anyway, but it's just really cool. And if you use a summon on him in the main game, obviously you can't in the boss rush mode, it's actually the legendary Stalker. So it's really, really cool. There's so many cool aspects of it, but the first phase I generally think is shit. Like, I generally think it's awful. Like, I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion. I would rather fight, like, Parade Master's first phase. Well, Parade Master's, well, he's kind of got two phases, I suppose. I do not like Arlecchino's first phase. I think the attacks are so poo, and it's just unenjoyable for me to fight against. When I fight him, I just want to get past that phase. His second phase is a lot better, but his second phase just has some moves that just go on for too long. And yet again, skill issue, sure, whatever. But I don't necessarily think it is, because the hardest boss in the game before Arlecchino, someone who was before the DLC that was said to be the hardest, I usually beat first try. And that's not me being arrogant, that's just showing you that I'm actually quite decent at Lives of P. Maybe I've not had enough time to fight this guy. Maybe in a week's time, a day's time, a year's time, he'll get... Maybe when I'm dead, I'll eventually be like, you know what? This boss was actually sick. But just for now, everything about him's cool. Everything. His voice acting's a bit off, to be fair. So maybe that's a bit thing. But the chapter he's in, the lore behind him, his design, his soundtrack's okay. I mean, it's one of the better ones in the game, but it's not amazing. But everything about him, his arena, everything is really, really cool. But that first phase is absolute dog shit, and the second phase is just average. Like, it's fine. Even if I could perfect block everything in his second phase, which I definitely can't, it's just meh. Like, so I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but that's my rant. I just ranted about him, I know. He is a good boss. I put him 14th out of 33, so he's on the good half of the list. But I know for a fact people have this guy top 5, if not best in the game, and I just could not disagree more. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everyone else hates him, and I'm in the minority putting him so high, but I don't think that'll be the case. Now, coming up to number 13 on the list, we have Champion Victor, the final boss and the only boss in Chapter 7 of the base game. And I think he's a fun boss to fight. Unlike Arlecchino, his telegraphs are actually quite good. His tells are pretty solid. He's a bit goofy lore-wise. I think he's Simon Manus and the alchemists, who Simon Manus is the leader of, experimented on. I don't really know much more about his lore other than that. I think he's weak to acid, at least in his first phase, which is a bit weird because he looks like he's made of acid. So maybe he's not actually weak to that. Maybe I'm just an idiot, but I'm pretty sure he's weak to acid. So that's a bit of something I'm not too keen on, because he counts as a human enemy, even though he looks like more carcassy to me. Anyway, but his first phase is actually more difficult than his second phase, and his second phase, which does have a cutscene, is halfway through his normal health bar. He doesn't have two separate health bars like a lot of other bosses with two phases. But overall, I just think, although his first phase is harder than his second phase, both phases have very similar attacks. There are very few differences in their attacks, and I just find them enjoyable. Like, if the whole fight was one of these other two phases and he didn't have a transition, which it's nice that he has a transition, but even if he didn't, he'd probably be in the same position on the list. His attacks are quite easy once you've fought him a few times to parry, but obviously for a newcomer, I'm sure they wouldn't be. But the one thing I like as well is you can fight him the entire time really by dodging. There's only one attack I can think of where dodging doesn't really work, but you can run away from him so that the fatal attack doesn't like hit you anyway, so you don't even have to iframe it. So yeah, I like him. I think he's an overall solid boss. I actually prefer him more than Arlecchino, which I know will be an unpopular opinion. But yeah, Champion Victor, solid boss, not much more to say really. Oh, his arena's pretty cool as well. Now, coming into number 13th, we have the Fallen Archbishop Andreas. Now, my biggest issue with this guy, straight up, and I'm just going to say it, is his second phase is annoying because he grows like this tentacle. Like, well, I say tentacle, it's like snake-like appendage, which is his main body, or main part of him, I suppose. And he keeps, so on one side, but on the other side, he keeps his first, you'll see in the gameplay later on, he keeps his first phase. So there's no reason to fight his new phase transition. You can just fight his previous phase, which only has one new additional attack, maybe two, but the other one's like a charge attack that never happens. I've seen it 3 times ever, and I fought this guy about 100 times. So his phase transition, although it looks cool, I think is, quite frankly, abhorrent. That being said, his actual when you actually fight him, his first phase, because you'll unless you want to make the game harder for yourself, you're going to fight his first phase in both phases, is fine. I think his attacks are quite easy to read, especially if you've been playing the game, obviously. I like his design. He's really gross and disgusting, but he's meant to be that way. Like King Flame Fuoko, for example, is just fucking a shit design, right? I know he's a furnace, and it fits Chapter 3's Vanini Works aesthetic, but it's just a shit design. He just looks boring as fuck. This guy, however, actually looks gross and disgusting, but he's meant to, and that's the whole point, and it's the only boss in the Chapter 4, I believe. No, actually, the Atoned is technically one, but the Atoned is just absolutely abhorrently poo. I've used abhorrent twice while talking about Andreas, and once wasn't even about him. That's how much I hate the Atoned. But yeah, Archbishop Andreas, absolutely fine. He has an Instakill attack, which is one of his new attacks, his only real new attack, because you're going to fight the same phase twice in his second phase. But it's once you know about it, it's quite easy to dodge. You just go into his leg. But I think it is quite hard to tell before you know about it, that you're meant to dodge it, right, and what you're meant to do. But once you've fought him 2 or 3 times, you'll know. Like, once you know it's easy, but it's just the knowing that is maybe the issue. But other than that, yeah, he's absolutely fine. Archbishop Andreas, solid boss, and, you know, I like him. And he's also 2 places higher than Arlecchino, and I'm gonna keep preferencing Arlecchino, because I know people are gonna rage on that. Well, I'm probably over-exaggerating. There'll be 5 people that watch this, and 1 person will just dislike it. Now, coming in just shy of the top 10, number 11, is one that I think might be a bit of a shock, to be fair, is Mad Clown Puppet. Now, hear me out, right, before you come and hire a hitman for me, right? I think that Mad Clown Puppet fits the vibe, especially in the chapter he's in, Chapter 6, Rosa Isabella Street. He fits the vibe of that area so well, he fits the vibe of the game so well, and his attacks I really, really like. And I also like his personality, even though he doesn't speak. People find him annoying, I know, but I really like the Mad Clown Puppet. He's optional, so you can't, and technically, I mean, you can't not, like, be next to him, but if you get killed by him, you can just run past him, right? Like, it's impossible to not see him, like, unless you're playing the game as a blind person, but then I think you'd struggle to play Lies of P anyway. But technically, you can run past him and just completely ignore him. He is technically optional, even though for most people, I'm sure he wouldn't be. And he drops a quartz, which is quite important. That being said, I just really like his tells are so good. I keep saying for every single one of these bosses, they're tells, but for me, that's why Arlecchino isn't as good as a lot of these other bosses, because especially in his first phase, just telling when he's going to attack and stuff and what attacks he's using is just a pain. But the Mad Clown Puppet, he's got attacks that I really enjoy. I like his design. I think it really suits the world. Overall, I mean, there's not much to say about him other than I just think he's a really good mini-boss. I mean, he's very easy, but boss doesn't need to be hard to be good, and I really like Mad Clown Puppet. Now, the first boss in the top 10, who's it going to be? It's going to be Veronique, the leader of the Sweepers. I hope you liked my French there. But Veronique, who is, I suppose you would say, I mean, there's 2 in the DLC, and one's obviously later on, but there's 2, like, human stalker/bastard enemies in the DLC that aren't main game, and they're far better than anything in the base game. Veronique is the leader of the stalkers, so the leader of, like, the survivor. Right, so, I don't know what she taught him, because she's absolutely amazing and he's absolutely clapped, so I have no idea. But yeah, she's just a really fun fight. The boss fight, the Stargazer is right outside the boss arena, literally, so there's no run back literally at all. Her moves are pretty fun. She's got to be quite fun to learn. My only issue with her, and it's not an issue with her herself, it's more the game developers, is she's not on the boss refight mode, because she's not classed as like a main boss, like a big boss, I suppose. So she can't be fought like that, so you've got to get to Chapter 9 every single time. So that's a bit of a downer. That being said, I really do like Veronique. I think her moves are really solid. She does burn to you. Because she's DLC as well, she's very tanky. She's actually not particularly easy, although I've only beat her once. Well, no, twice actually, that's a lie. I beat her in my first playthrough, and I actually beat her first try in New Game Plus. But she's solid. And lore-wise, I don't really know too much about her, I'm going to be quite frank, but she's the leader of the Stalkers, and yeah, she's good for that. She's definitely by far the best Stalker enemy in the game, hands down. Now, coming into number 9, we have the babe herself, Marchiona, and I'm getting sweaty just talking about her. Woo, woo, woo. You know it. Anyway, Marchiona, I think, is a pretty solid boss. She controls this puppet, but it's very obvious when the puppet's attacking, because, like so basically, you fight 2 at the same time, but not really. It's kind of like the black. God, I'm stuttering because I'm thinking of Marchiona and I'm drooling. But no, like it's kind of like the Black Rabbit Brotherhood, where there's like 2 of them, or multiple of them. There's more than 2 in the back. I'm starting again. Jesus Christ, what have I got in my head? But like her wire you'll see in the gameplay goes like red when the puppet's going to attack, and when she's attacking, it's not red. So it's quite easy to thing. The only issue I have with this is that if you're focusing on her, which I did in this gameplay, I originally didn't in the DLC when I fought her, and you can see that video, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But I've actually beat her first time on this this playthrough. I believe it was first time anyway. But I focused just on her. But if you don't focus on her, you got the puppet to avoid and stuff, and it's like and you can destroy the puppet, and then there's like a little downtime where the puppet's not active and you can just get hits in on her, although she will fight back a little bit, so you have got to be wary about that. But I think the way to go is just to focus on her, just to bum rush her, and when you do, although it's very obvious when the puppet's going to attack in terms of like around the about time, knowing exactly when it's going to attack, because most of the time if you're locking on, which I feel like you would for Markiona, when you lock onto her, the puppet is out of sight, so getting perfect blocks is in this fight going to be very, very difficult, and I think it's more of a dodge fight than a perfect block fight. That being said, the fact that I'm not a big fan of that and it's still this high up on the list shows you how much good. I love the arena in it. Well, I say love. The arena they're in is fine. It's like a big greenhouse. It's absolutely fine. It's after the Tyrannical Predator. It's like the true final boss of the Crap Zoo chapter 1 of the DLC. I think her design, and even her puppet's design, is really cool, but especially her design. It's really, really cool. I like her voice actress. I like the intro cutscene to her. Her lore, I think that's all really, really good. Her second phase transition is actually pretty decent, and it's actually not the easiest thing to block against or perfect parry against. I mean, if you fight her constantly, maybe, but I've not fought her that many times. I don't think I think I fought her once in the boss rush mode. But overall, Markiona is just a very good boss, and, you know, her being the first true boss, I suppose, of the DLC. I mean, we've got the Tyrannical Predator, but her being the first main and first you can replay boss of the DLC, I mean, it shows you how good the DLC was going to be once you played it, I suppose. Speaking of DLC, we've got another DLC character at, let me look on this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8th on the list. That's a bit further down than I thought it would be. Is Lamachio, I believe is how you say his name, leader of the Bastards. So that's why I was like, I don't know which enemies are Stalkers or Bastards. They're like 2 humanoid enemy factions. One's a Bastards, one's a Stalkers. I don't know which is which. But this guy's definitely the best Bastard, right? And the other girl's definitely the best Stalker, right? So this is going to be the last one of these Bastard or Stalker enemies on the list. It's one in the DLC as well, and he's just really, really fun. He's got a Father Gascoigne gimmick. Well, I say gimmick, it's not really a gimmick, but he's like Father Gascoigne in Bloodborne. If you know that reference, you do. If you don't, you don't. Where halfway through the fight, it's a little bit earlier than halfway through, he transforms into like a monster and his moveset completely changes, and it's pretty cool. I also like how he uses the Etiquette, which is a boss fight weapon from the base game, which is actually kind of a fun weapon to use. I like his lore, I like his character design, to an extent. I mean, I don't think it's amazing or anything, but I think it's fine, it's definitely not bad. Overall, I mean, there's not much to say about Lamachio that I didn't say really about Veronique. I think Lamachio is better overall, because I find him really enjoyable to fight against. Like, I mean, you could swap them around any time, though. I mean, there's only Markiona in between them, and I feel like you asked me on a different day, I'd actually say Veronique is better. But Lamachio I do like, and I think I do like his lore a lot better as well. I mean, I know more about his lore because I've looked up more about his lore because I'm more interested in his lore. He also is the only boss fight in the section he's in, and it's annoying because he's also one you can't... He's actually, I believe, yes, I'm looking at the list, he's the last boss on the list that is you can't boss rematch. The rest of them you can, so it's a bit of a downer because, you know, he's the only boss in the chapter he's in, so that means there's one chapter in the DLC where there's just no boss rematch available, which is a bit... It sucks. And he has kind of got a proper arena, so I don't know... with a Stargazer very close, so I don't know why. I hope they can add that in a DLC. Some of these, like Puppet of the Future, I don't need to rematch, sure. Survivor, I don't need to rematch. White Lady, I'm good, thanks. But this guy, Veronique, Mad Clown Puppet even, I mean, I know that's probably... Even if you give them like a base arena, like just a default arena, and like just shove them in there for you to fight, I don't know, I think these guys would be fun to fight again and again and again. Anyway, Lamachio is the leader of the Bastards. He is a bloody bastard, I'll tell you what, and he comes in at number 8. Number 7, we have the Two-Faced Overseer, another DLC boss, and you can tell I'm liking the DLC a lot. And this guy is strong with a capital S. If you don't perfect parry every single one of his attacks, even if you block it normally, he is going to stagger you to hell and high water. Even on New Game Plus, he was staggering me. At least I think he was. Maybe the gameplay's telling a different story. Maybe I absolutely clapped his cheeks. I don't think I beat this guy first try. I think it was like 2nd or 3rd on my New Game Plus. On my original, it was like 15th try. Well, no, it wasn't. I don't think it was past 10 tries. But it was a few tries anyway. And I did use Alidoro, who is a character who is a summon. So I used a summon because I thought he was cool. So I used him. So this was the first time I used him like with no summon, like I fought him with no summon. And he It's pretty difficult, I'd say. His health bar is really, really high. His whole gimmick, he's not really got a true second phase, because throughout the fight, I think it depends on how much damage you do, he'll turn like red. That's probably why it's called the two-faced overseer. And then his attacks get a lot more sporadic, a lot more... Well, I say sporadic, they're still quite... You can still tell them. But he gets a lot more vicious, basically a lot more damage he probably deals, although I'm not certain there. And he's just overall a lot harder. But he goes in and out of that phase 2 or 3 times. And I think it's twice, although maybe it is time-based, but I think it is just how much damage you deal to him, so I think it's twice. So it's not really a true second phase, because it's not like he goes to that phase and stays there. Do you know what I mean? He kind of like flip-flops. But it is unique, I like it. Two-Faced Overseer is really solid. I think his boss fight arena is pretty cool as well. You can summon Alidoro as a summon if you want to use summons, and the summon is pretty cool as well. So yeah, overall I like him. I think his design's pretty solid as well. The only thing I'm not a big fan of is his boss music. I think it's like meh, it's pretty generic. But I mean, to be fair, I can say that about a lot of them. Parade Master, who else? Eldest of the Black Ray Brotherhood. Like a lot of these have just got quite generic like sound. Like you could replace them all with each other's. Now coming into number 6, just missing out on the top 5, is Laxatia, the Complete Simon, Manus' right-hand woman, and she is dope. The hardest, I think, former boss in the game before Arlecchino, I think it's a general consensus. And for me, it probably is as well. I mean, I still usually on a new game beat a first try, which isn't me being arrogant, I've just played the game so much. And it's never clean. Like, usually the first phase is quite clean. The second phase, I get hit constantly. So it's not like I'm amazing or anything. I'm no on-ball or everything, on-ball or whatever. But Laxatia is just a really cool boss. Her first phase, I like her attacks quite a lot. They're very obvious when they're going to happen. They're not bullshit. She's weak to acid. I don't know if she's in her second phase, but I know she's in her first phase. I think she's in her second phase as well, to be fair. She has this big sword. Like, she has attacks where she's constantly like swinging swords, and you can block them, and it's so satisfying to go ding, 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 ding. And it's just so satisfying. I like her design. Her arena's pretty cool. Then you move on to the second phase. And the second phase, it starts raining. So that's already 1 point on the board for me. She shoots lightning at you. She has this like opening to her face, and she can do it a second time later on in the fight, but usually I kill her before that happens, where she jumps up in the air, she'll shoot a bunch of lightning bolts at you, and then she'll dive at you, and it looks really cool. The only issue I have with it is the dive attack. Unless you've fought her before, it is a bit difficult to tell. That being said, I think it is still reactable, because like you can barely see it, but she does glow red, and she does like move a little bit before she jumps at you, so you should like you know, if you're paying attention. So it's not the biggest BS ever, but that's the only real BS. Her second phase is also just, I can never dodge it very well, so this is coming from someone who can't dodge it very well, but it's like, you know, her second phase reminds me of Arlecchino just a million times better, right? So actually, she's 6th, so she's exactly 2 times higher, right? Because, well, no, because that'd be 12. Whatever, pretend I said nothing, but she's better than Arlecchino is what I'm trying to say. But oh yeah, Laxatia is just a really, really fun boss, and I've actually fought her a few times on the boss refight mode, because I generally enjoy her. She's one of only few bosses. There's only probably about 5 or 6 bosses that I would constantly refight over and over again, and she is one of them. Now, coming into our top 5, we have the second main boss, or the third boss in the game, I suppose you could say, and the main boss of Chapter 2, which is the Scrapped Watchman. The fact that this guy comes after Mad Donkey is crazy. Scrapped Watchman is such a good boss. His lore is really cool, his design's really cool, his arena's really cool. If you're in New Game Plus, he speaks to you, like in subtitles. You can't actually hear his voice, but, well, you can, but it's like not, you know, he's not speaking English in his voice. But like, the actual subtitles, it's really good, like, which goes into his lore, I suppose. His attacks are very well choreographed. His second phase is so cool with the lightning. He's a puppet that is immune to lightning as well, which is so interesting because every single other puppet isn't. So that's just another play on what you know about the game, and it's very early on as well. So, you know, it kind of takes you through a loop, I suppose. And his attacks, like, there's not a single attack of his that I dislike. There's not a single part of his fight I dislike. Literally, there's no... Actually, that's a lie. The only thing I can think of off the top of my head, literally the only thing... I mean, his runback's a little bit far, but it's not really. I mean, it's very close. Just for Liza P standards, where most runbacks are literally outside the room that the fight is in. For those standards, it's quite far, but, you know, compared to, like, other Souls-likes, it's literally, like, right there. So it's not a big deal. The only issue I really have with Scrapped Watchman, and this shows you how much I love him, is his soundtrack is fucking ass. Like, I talked about the soundtrack with Two-Face Overseer a second ago, but this guy's is absolute, like, it's actually shit. Like, the rest of them are just, most of the soundtracks I dislike are, like, generic, and that's why I don't like them. They just don't sound interesting. This one's just actual shit. I just don't like the soundtrack at all, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm no classically trained music expert, but, you know, I'm just not a big fan of it. That being said, every single other thing, there's not a single thing of this boss, I mean, Laxatia as well, I suppose, but this boss especially, there's not a single thing I dislike about him. And he's the true first test of the game. You've got Parade Master, which, if you're new to Souls or you're new to LSP, you might die to a few times. Mad Donkey, you possibly could, but this is the first true test. Now, once you've fought him and once you know his moves, he's like, I don't think I've ever died. I don't think I've died to this guy in like, it's got to be close to 150 years, but I mean, it's been a while anyway. But like, he's just so unbelievably good, and for only the second main boss in the game, it's crazy what they could do. This guy is so unbelievably cool. Now, fourth on the list, we actually have the adult version of the child version that I mentioned earlier, and that is the Green Monster of the Swamp, or as he's known in his second phase, the Puppet Devouring Monster of the Swamp, or Green Puppet Monster. I can't remember exactly. I've got written down here Green Monster of the Swamp. Now, the first phase is actually pretty enjoyable. I don't mind the first phase. The first phase I wouldn't say is as good as like the Scrapped Watchman, Laxatia, yada yada yada, but I do not mind the first phase at all. It was seen as one of the hardest bosses when the game came out. I think they got a few nerfs to their health bars and stuff. I could be wrong. Do correct me on that. But I don't think he's even then was anywhere near the hardest boss in the game. I think on my first playthrough, which was I think it was that around October-ish time? I don't think it was September. I think it was October-ish time, 2023, when I first played the game, because I played the game like a month after it came out for the first time. I didn't play it literal day one. But I didn't find him anywhere near. I think it couldn't have took me much more than 10, although to be fair, my first time ever playing I was using summons, but it couldn't have taken me more than 10 tries, if that. Like, I can't remember how much it took me, but I don't think it was that much. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it took me 52 and I just can't remember. Anyway, that's besides the point. But this guy's moveset, I really, really like. I really like the arena he's in to an extent. Like, I know it's just like a scrapyard, but I mean, it fits the vibe of the chapter and fits the vibe of him. Like, where else would he be, right? The disgusting, despicable cretin. But I don't know. I just really, really like this fight. I like all the moves. It's fun to fight him. I fought him on the refight mode a few times. I keep mentioning the refight mode because it's new to the DLC, and I just want to preface how much I like a boss when I mention it. So if I'm mentioning that constantly, you know. But yeah, I just really like this boss. I mean, there's not much to really say about the first phase. I just think it's decent. The second phase, however, he gets the body, the scrapped body of the scrapped Watchman, which was actually one place lower than this, which, surprise, surprise, that was just an accident. I didn't do that on purpose. It's just Scrapped Watchman's also great. But he gets the body of the Scrapped Watchman. Instead of being allergic, I was going to say, well, I mean, maybe that too, but instead of having a weakness to fire, he now has a weakness to electric, which is interesting because Scrapped Watchman didn't, but I suppose he doesn't have electric attacks in his second phase. And he gets the moveset of the Scrapped Watchman with an additional 3 or 4 attacks, and those 3 or 4 attacks are brilliant. So he's basically, he's got the first phase, which I think is good anyway, and then the second phase is a Scrapped Watchman with additional moves, and the additional moves are really fun, not at all annoying. And I just love the design of this second phase as well. I mean, it looks gross and stuff, sure, but it's meant to. I mean, I love this fight. It's Scrapped Watchman, but more intriguing. I think Scrapped Watchman's great, so I can't even rip Scrapped Watchman. Anyway, now coming in at number 3, to nobody's surprise, it's this high up on the list, although maybe some people thought it would be first, is the King of Puppets, or his second phase is the King of Puppets, Romeo, or Romeo King of Puppets. Now, the first phase, well, first things first, the only boss on this entire list where I actually adore the soundtrack. Like, Fuoco's soundtrack is okay, but this is the only one really, if not, yeah, I think so, where at both phases as well, I really adore the soundtrack. I really like the soundtrack. I think that I like the second phase more, but the first one is solid. The intro to this boss, the lore of this boss, which has a lot of effect on the DLC as well, Romeo, the design of this boss, the arena you fight the boss in, first phase specifically, but it's for both phases because it's the same arena, is fucking sick. This boss is so good. Not a single negative. Well, besides, I think with this boss there might be 1 or 2 attacks in his first phase, which I'm like unsure of. They're not bad. I don't think he's got a single attack that I think abysmal, but he's got 2 attacks. One where he's got like a huge fan, and one where he like spins around. And they're just I don't know, they look cool, but like, I don't know, they don't seem, they're like my least favourite attacks. They're not abysmal, they're not bad, they're just mediocre at best, right? And then the rest of his attacks are really, really cool. I like him at this boss fight a lot. And then you get onto the second phase, and he comes out, like he's a puppet controlling a fucking mech like it's Gurren Lagann. He comes out, and he has a scythe in his hand, or a scythe-esque thing, and it looks so cool, and his attacks are so cool. And then he's got a second phase of his second phase where he lights his thing on fire. It's really difficult to perfect parry all of it. I still can't, so I just dodge it, and even then I get hit once or twice. It's just such a cool boss fight, and it happens in Chapter 6. It's called The King of Puppets. The game is about puppets, and it's only in Chapter 6. So he's nowhere, now with not even including the DLC, which is even more content, but he is nowhere near, like he's at the middle point of the game, but to be fair, considering how fast you can get through the early stages of the game, he's even before that, I think. So, being introduced to the king of puppets this early on, it's just such a cool fight. He also, in his second phase, if you're in New Game Plus only, actually straight up talks to you. Like, you can actually hear him audibly talk. And basically, Romeo, the lore of Romeo, in a very nutshell. I mean, in the DLC, you actually see him in the DLC as well, which is a prequel, when he was more human, I think. But now he's a puppet. But he was turned into a puppet by Geppetto, and he was best mates with Geppetto's son, Carlo, which is who you're modelled after, and you have his heart inside of you, like his memories and stuff. So he hasn't, and he's trying to, and he's the king of puppets, and he was trying to, when the Parade Master fought you, the Scrapped Watchman and Fuoco, he used them to like try to talk to you to get you to stop fighting or to stop thingy, to get you on his side, but you couldn't understand them, I suppose, and just didn't listen, or you trusted Geppetto too much, because Geppetto is like the main villain of the game, really, not Simon Manus, the absolute bellend he is. But my god, Green Monster from the Swamp, I'm looking at my list all wrong. King of Puppets is just a very, very good fight. I really love it. There's very little, if anything, I dislike about it. And that's why it's third on this, I suppose. Now, coming into second, this might be a shock for some people, I think. My favourite DLC boss is the Anguished Guardian of the Ruins. Now, design-wise, I think he's fine, but I remember looking at him in the trailer, and I thought instantly this would be a boss I hate. I thought he was going to be worse than Archbishop. He has that similar sort of vibe. I generally, for some reason, I looked at him, I was like, this guy's going to be ass, right? And they showed a bit of gameplay with him, and he's just huge, and usually huge guys with cameras and stuff. But fighting this guy is epic as all hell. Woo, baby, it's so good. Like, so, his first phase, so he's got two phases, it's all in one health bar, but he's pretty tanky, so it might as well be two different health bars. But his first phase is absolutely fine. I don't particularly, like, if he just had that first phase and didn't have a transition phase, he'd probably be about 10th, 12th, whatever on this list. He'd be a lot further down, but it'd still be okay. Like, it still wouldn't be a horrific fight. His second phase, however, where he gets like laser beams that shoot at you, like if you know Medea from Dark Souls 3, which I've actually got some gameplay of, so I might put that in the footage, but he's like Medea from Dark Souls 3, where he like shoots lasers at you, and you have to dodge the lasers, and they're so cool, and he's so epic, and his boss fight music is actually okay. I mean, it's not great, to be fair. Well, actually, it's not that good. I'm just trying to glaze the guy as much as possible. But some of the attacks he does this thing where he slams down his spear, picks it back up, you can dodge it. It's quite easy to tell, although I keep getting hit by it because I'm washed. But it's just so, like, the reason this boss fight is so high for me is not only do I think it's actually an okay boss anyway, but it's just the scale of it, the epicness. And he's just a guy. I don't know any of this guy's lore. I'm sure he has got lore, but I know nothing of this guy's lore. I don't even know who I know more about Archbishop Andreas. I know more about, like, the Mad Clown Puppet I probably know more lore about than this guy. Like, I literally don't know his lore at all. Not even remotely. I don't even know who he was. He's an Anguished Guardian of the Ruins. Who was that? Is he multiple people? Is he one person? I literally have no idea, right? But I still love him this much. Like, he's so cool. It's just so epic on scale. And he is a bit gimmicky, where he's got like two horns, one on his left hand, the one that hasn't got the weapon in, and one on his head. And the one on his hand's a lot easier to deal damage to. But if you deal damage to the one on his hand, and then the one on his head, and you destroy them both, he becomes far easier as a boss. But you don't actually have to destroy them to damage him. He's kind of like Door Guardian's updated version, but just a lot tankier, and a lot cooler, and a lot better in scale. The only issue I really have is with his laser attacks. He's got two different ones. Well, kind of three, I suppose. And at least with two of them, he's very difficult to tell which one he's going to use. Like, the build-up. Well, I mean, I've only fought him like a few times. Well, beat him a few times. I think 3 or 4 times. 4 times I think I've beat him now. Because I fought him in a bush rush mode a few times. But it just seems like the tell on that is a bit meh. But yeah, because of just the epic scale of it and how good... Like this boss is just so good. I mean, I'm terrible at this boss. Like, I don't know how well I did in the gameplay, but I probably did absolutely poo-poo. But this boss is just so unbelievably good. But he's not as good as number 1. Number 1 is, I mean, if you've played Lies of P, you probably know where this is going. The final boss of the main game, well, the true final boss, that is, the Nameless Puppet. If Anguished Guardian of the Ruins is like an 8 out of 10 in terms of like Souls-like games, or just Souls games in general, how good they are, Nameless Puppet's 15 out of 10. Nameless Puppet is so good. Now, I'm going to get a few things out of the way, negatives. The boss fight arena is a little lackluster. It's not horrific, it's just a little lackluster, especially considering it's right after Simon Manus, who has a better arena. His design, I think, is fine. I actually do like his design, but I always feel like there's something missing in his design for whatever reason. And if you fight him in normal game, there is a lot of like yapping from characters, both Geppetto, who in the first phase controls him, and then in the second phase you get like, it's like Arthur Morgan remembering his friends from Red Dead Redemption 2 when he's riding through the woods in that one scene. If you get that reference, you get that reference. If you don't, you don't. Where you just hear like people talking constantly, it's like it ruins the ambience a little bit. Although I know it's meant to be like intense or whatever. But if you fight him in the boss rush mode, there's none of that. Nobody yaps. So it's, you know, that's a way to avoid it. And I'm judging him now that's out, right? I'm not judging him beforehand, right? But that is literally all the negatives. And his soundtrack's average. Like, it's not great, it's not bad. It's definitely one of the better ones, but it's nowhere near King of Puppets. That's all the negatives, and most of them weren't even really negatives. Positives. First phase and second phase, he is so fun to perfect parry. He's one of the only bosses I've just learned all the parry timings of because he's so fucking fun. His second phase especially, but even his first phase, just looks so cool when he's fighting. His second phase especially. None of his attacks are bullshit. None of his moves are uninteresting. His second phase when he cuts the strings, all three of his cutscenes, the cutscene with Geppetto setting him up, the cutscene phase transition, and then the cutscene at the end, it's just all so cool. I could fight this guy forever. He's like Lady Maria from Bloodborne, but more controversially, maybe in my opinion, is far, far more enjoyable to fight. He's like Lady Maria, but tougher and just more fun. And it's just so cool. I mean, that's clearly where his inspiration comes from, in my opinion, at least for his second phase. But wow, like, just look at the gameplay and tell me it doesn't look fucking cool. Like, it's so, like, it's one of those bosses I struggle to talk about what I like about him, because it's more, you've got to experience it. Like, he's probably not got the best design, he's not got the best boss fight arena, he's not got the best soundtrack, and he's probably not got the best, like, weapon, maybe. I mean, you could say, I don't know, I'm stretching now, but, like, there's a lot of things he doesn't do the best, but when you put everything together, he is just the best boss. And I do think the one thing he does do the best is his attacks, especially in that second phase, but the first phase as well, his attacks, I love him. Nameless Puppet, I genuinely think if they make a Lives of P2 or a sequel, or if Neo was make another Souls-like, I think they would struggle to top Nameless Puppet. He is so good. And if I was to rank Nameless Puppet in terms of, like, all Souls games I've played, so like Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, he probably wouldn't be top, but he would be top 5, I think. I just love the Nameless Puppet so much. Whether he'd be first, probably not. I'm trying to think of bosses I've fought in other games in my head, but he would definitely be, I think, a top 5. I'm pretty certain on that. Anyway, that is my list. I know for a lot of that I yapped. I mean, I'm a yapaholic for a reason. You know, it's an addiction to yap, you know. But I hope you really enjoyed this list. Please tell me what your opinions are in the comment section below, what you agree with, what you disagree with. I'm quite happy with this list. I mean, I'm sure, besides Nameless Puppet, because that won't happen, but I'm sure some of these guys, like, maybe in a week's time, I'll be like, oh, King of Puppets is definitely better than Anguished Guardian. That might happen, I don't know. But for now, as I'm recording this, I'm actually quite happy with this list. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you later.